So, welcome back, everyone. My next guest has been on my show a couple of times before. I have with me Rob Young, and he is the owner of Blue Dot Wealth Management. Welcome to the show. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of remind us about what your firm does.
Yeah, absolutely, Carol. It's great to be back. We are an independent financial planning firm. We help families all over Arizona and, frankly, around the country plan for their future. And we really basically try to break things down into two things, two categories, if you will, the why and the how, right? And so anytime anybody asks me about this, I use the word FORM as an acronym. And that basically stands for family, occupation, recreation, and then the M stands for money, right? So the things that we're really planning for when we're planning for our future are surrounding the why, right? Surrounding family, our occupation, what we want to do, what we enjoy doing, how we want to live our life, and all of that. And once we kind of have the why questions answered, then it's a lot easier to start to plug in things with the M, the how. How are we going to get there? So,
right.
That's a little bit about what we do.
Well, what I love about you, and you're very into numbers.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that. It's huge, and because not everybody is as into numbers, and I want you to first also explain why Blue Dot Wealth Management. Why do you call it that?
Yeah, so that all stems from my childhood. When I was a kid, I was about 10 years old when Cosmos came on TV with Carl Sagan, and that really fueled my imagination into science and math as part of that, obviously, right? And so where the Blue Dot comes from in Blue Dot Wealth Management was that when the Voyager spacecraft was about to leave the solar system, Carl Sagan had lobbied to have Voyager turned around and take a picture of Earth from about millions and millions and millions of miles away. And you can see just this one pale pixel in this huge sea of black. And to me, what that really represents is that, we're really all in this together, right? And so the firm is really founded on that kind of ethic, right? It's in our mission statement that, that's really that's our focus.
Well, I'll tell you something, though. When I say numbers person, and you want to talk, you were talking a little bit about, the stock market, which obviously you need to be a numbers person.
You have to have an idea about that, yeah.
Right. Which is, I want them to understand, why are you so into numbers the way that you are? I mean, intensely.
Yeah. Well, I think as an economist that I follow says all the time, math always wins, right, at the end of the day. So I think that oftentimes when you think about investments, or when you think about, whether they're stocks or bonds or real estate or anything, oftentimes people get very, very emotional about the investments that they're in, right?
Especially when they don't do good.
Especially when they don't do good. But even sometimes when they're doing really well, like, I'll pick on Bitcoin because it was a big thing last year, right? It had a massive run up, and then it had a massive fall, and people are still emotionally attached to that. Now, I'm not going to pass judgment on whether or not I think cryptocurrencies are good, bad, or indifferent, right? But it's the emotional attachment to those when there aren't necessarily any fundamentals to back them up. Mm-hmm. And so those fundamentals are important, whether you're talking about sports or you're talking about money. All of those things are kind of driven by statistics and numbers and math, and if they don't all add up, then it typically doesn't work out well for the people that invest money in it.
Now, when you were here in January, you said that inflation was going to be a big issue this year.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, you tried to pry out what I thought would happen with the stock market, and I was reluctant to talk about it because I don't necessarily like to give predictions about what the market will do necessarily in any given year. But inflation was a big theme, I think, in January. It continues to be a big theme. So this year, so far, we've already seen gas prices go from about $2.25 to about $3. We've seen interest rates go up. The Fed we're anticipating that the Fed will raise rates now maybe 4 times this year as opposed to 3 times this year. We've seen real estate prices go up. We've seen mortgage rates go up. And all of that has an effect on the economy. And that's not to say that the stock market doesn't go up when interest rates go up. It just means that it typically tends to be a lot more volatile, and we've already seen that play out this year, right? Last year, we could have headlines about almost anything, and nobody necessarily cared. Today, Italy says they might have some problems, and the stock market goes down 400 points, right? So, and we're not trying to. We're always trying to remind clients that we don't necessarily care about what the headline of the day is, because that doesn't matter to somebody's investment returns 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 years down the road. But it is important to basically understand what's going on, why it's going on, and how that affects different parts of the economy, right? So, yeah, inflation, I think, will continue to be a big deal this year. I think the stock market will continue to be volatile as well. That doesn't mean that it will go down or up. It just means that it'll be choppy like we've seen so far.
Right. Now, what about the new tax law?
So we would have thought that would have been a big gift for corporate America, and it has been. We've seen, we've certainly seen earnings go up. Over 80% of S&P 500 companies have reported positive blowout earnings so far this year. You'd think that would move the stock market higher, but I think one of the reasons why it hasn't is because most people don't necessarily think about the stock market forecasting out 9 and 12 months from now. And so the effects of that tax law are going to be fairly short-lived, I think, for this year's earnings at the very least. So it's hard to know a year and 2 years out what that's going to look like.
Now, when you work with your clients, you do a free consultation.
Yes.
Right? And I mean, because you're such a numbers guy, okay? What do you do when they first talk with you? How does it, look with you? Because, I think you're very analytical when it comes to. You're fun, but at the same time...
Fun but analytical. I love it.
But analytical, very much so. So what do they need to bring to the plate with you?
Yeah, so, really everything that we talk about is a conversation, right? And I really want to make sure that we're focused on the why and the how, right? So, really, when we sit down and talk, it's going to be a conversation about them and their family and what it is that they want to do and accomplish, not just in retirement, but in life in general, right? I really make it a point to really get to know my clients so that we can act in their best interest and really be an advocate, a financial advocate, if you will, for them.
Now, you might want to check their website out. It's blue.wealthmanagement.com. Their number to call is area code 256-2384. And they do free consultations. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, I want to talk further about some of your thoughts about what's going on this year. Is it going to be, do you feel like there's going to be a crash? Do you feel like that's going to happen?
No, I don't. There's not necessarily the emotional, and this will sound kind of weird coming from an analytical guy, but like the emotional, the emotional side of a frothy market isn't evident yet. And by that, I essentially mean that when I go hang out at wherever, barbecues or whatever people are doing right now, nobody's necessarily saying, oh, I just bought XYZ stock and it's amazing, I've made so much money on it, right? Usually there's one person that will do that at every barbecue, but when that happens a lot, then you know that things are a little weird.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know there's a lot of people who are concerned, but at the same time, someone like this is somebody that can help you. He wants to help you, know about your family, your occupation, your recreation, your money. He really wants to get to know you. Again, you can check him out on his website. It's blue.wealthmanagement.com. We'll be back in just a minute. So welcome back. And we're talking with Rob Young, and he is the owner of Blue Dot Wealth Management. And before the break, I had said that he's such a numbers guy, and he really is. And we talked about how analytical and he is, and that's really good. It's not a bad thing, especially in the financial industry like you are.
It has its place, yeah.
And today happens to be, and only him would come up with this, it's 529 Day, Carol. And I'm like, okay, 529 Day, what does that mean?
It means it's college planning day. We talk about 529 plans. Yeah.
So that's hysterical. And the funny thing is he didn't even, we've booked this, I don't know how long ago.
Months ago, yeah.
Months ago. And he comes walking in and says, oh, it's 529 Day. And I didn't even put it together, but only Rob would figure that out. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I figured we'd talk a little bit about 529 plans since it's 529 Day and talk a little bit about college planning. I know your girls have recently graduated,
yes.
And I'm sure that was,
I don't own it. I don't owe it. They do.
They do. They got
do.
through it all.
Yeah.
Well,
they got to pay those bills.
Yeah.
Not me.
Well, it's the end of the school year. As I kind of typically joke with folks, if your kids are freshmen or sophomores in high school, you've probably started too late when it comes to thinking about 529 plans at the very least for college planning. But definitely when we're talking about parents with new kids or grandparents that are wanting to gift money to their young grandchildren. It's a great time to talk about it. We talked a little bit about the new tax law before the break. One of the things that did come out of that piece of legislation that's really useful for college planning, or these 529 plans, is that you can now use the money that's in them not only for college, but you can also use them for education for like K through 12. So if you're sending your kids to charter schools or public school or private schools, I should say, or things along those lines, that money for 529 plans can be used for that.
So you can get a write-off for doing that.
Yes,
it's a tax deduction is what you're saying.
That is correct. Well, so you get a tax deduction for contributing to the plan.
Okay.
For a single person, it's $2,000. For a married couple, it's $4,000. In addition, and this is where it becomes a useful estate planning vehicle, a single person, a grandparent, let's say, can move $150,000 out of their estate and gift it to their kids inside of these 529 plans. So for people that are looking to
move money,
it's a way of basically doing so and
at an advantage to them.
Correct. Exactly so. So there's a tax deduction that you get off of your taxes if you're a parent contributing to those plans for your kids. There's also the benefit of moving it out of your estate as well. So
now they can check you out on your website, which is blue.wealthmanagement.com. His phone number, it's 480-256-2384, and he does do free consultations. Today's just talking a little bit about stuff that everybody should know about, basically in the area of finances, and this is a great place to do it. It's a lot of people that listen to this station are your type of people.
Sure.
And being, interested in all these kinds of things too. Again, he likes to use the word FORM for you as an acronym, he said. Family, he likes to talk to you about your family, your occupation, recreation, what you like to do, and money.
Yep.
And numbers. I got to throw that one in. That doesn't come on that. We don't have one for that, but we'll have to come up with that.
Well, numbers are important, and like I said before, math always wins, right? So that's an important...
It is. Now, okay, so what are some of the important things to ask then an advisor when it comes to then college planning?
Yeah, so...
Not just to move the money. Everybody wants to move their money, hide it, and this and that and the other thing.
Sure. Well, I think, having an understanding about how those tax deductions will work for families. I think also a lot of people don't actually realize that the state of Arizona actually has 3 different options for 529 plans here. The look on your eyes says it all. Like, I had no idea. We have 3.
I had no idea.
Some states have...
I didn't know we had one.
Right, we have 3.
Otherwise, my kids would not be in the position that they're in. Go ahead.
Some states have prepaid tuition programs as opposed to 529 plans, or in addition to 529 plans. So in all of the states that we are registered in, and even a few states that, I have friends in that maybe I don't have clients in, plan, we stay very current on each and every one of those plans so that when clients are asking us about them, we can help them navigate that system. Sometimes your estate plan isn't necessarily the best plan, the best plan that's out there. They could have higher fees, or the investment performance could be, not stellar, right? Or lagging maybe other providers. So we crunch all of that data for people to make sure that they're in the right plan for them, depending upon what the length of time is that they're trying to save for their kids.
So you said when you first started talking about college planning, you said that if your kids are in high school, you're probably a little bit too late. But at the same time, if you're a grandparent and you have some money and you want to move that money and you want to put it in there, so there's two different people that we're talking about.
There's definitely two different audiences. That's right.
Right, and I want to make that clear because a lot of people, when they're talking about financial planning and this and that, they think that they either have to have a lot of money or they have to be older. And I think you talk to very different people, but you help both.
Correct. Absolutely.
And that's what I want to get out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we talked about this the very first time I was on the show. I have 5 very simple rules, right? The rule number 1 is you have to know you need advice. Rule number 2 is you have to be willing to pay for that advice. Rule number 3 is when we create a plan, you stick to the plan. Rule number 4 is you can't be a jerk. And rule number 5 is you have to be willing to leave a legacy for your family or your community, right? That philanthropic giving or that, making sure that, if money is left over, if we do our job correctly, we'll have money left over, and we want to make sure that goes where you want it to go.
Right.
So those 5 rules. So it doesn't matter whether, somebody has a little bit of money and they're just getting started, or, they've got a lot of money and they're looking for help as well.
Right. I mean, and that's what I wanted to get out, because when you mentioned that earlier, because there's a lot of people out there, when you just get married and you have your family, when you're starting a family, that's really when you really should start to think about all these things. And I know somebody who, I don't remember what plan from the television, and there's definitely better ones than that, but whatever, she did it, and she was thrilled to have been able to do that. And the reason why was because her life changed.
Right.
And she didn't have the means herself, and she wouldn't have known what she would do without it.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to bring that up for the people. There's people that have money, and that's great, and he's here to help you, and that's for sure. But, those people, too, the ones that are just starting out.
Yeah. I'm looking for good people that are looking to really have a plan, right? And that's the part that's really important to me. I really feel like, getting on to, this whole idea of legacy and philanthropy, if you really think about the positive impact that you can have on people's lives, it's amazing. My father, or my grandfather, I should say, had a heart attack at the age of 57. And my mom's whole childhood basically changed after that. She went from going to private schools and having this beautiful home in Ohio to all of that ending, and they moved from Ohio to Arizona, which is great because I'm here now. But that whole trajectory of that family changed because there wasn't really good financial planning. That they hadn't done it.
Right, and that's something that you guys need to think about. Everybody does.
Everybody.
There isn't, it like we say, it's going to happen no matter what. And whether it happens sooner or later, we just don't know. We don't know what that time, that little tick, 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 we don't know what's going forward. We have no choice. So what we have to do is plan.
Right.
So real quickly before we end, if you had to pick between saving for kids' college or retirement, what would you recommend?
Retirement all the time, right?
Right, your kids have to pay for those, so they're going to get a job, let them pay their own bills. Go
right.
ahead.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. No, you can't borrow for your retirement, right? Like, just fundamentally, right? Your kids could get student loans, or there are options out there for them, whether that was, again, student loans, scholarships, grants, any of those kinds of things. No one is going to allow you to borrow for your retirement. So your retirement should always come first.
Absolutely. Again, what would you read your final words besides that to them today about your firm?
The only other thing I think that I would like people to know is that yes, we are numbers people for sure, but we definitely love what we do. We're very, very passionate about helping people identify their why, and us being able to help them get to the realization of that.
And leaving a legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And having fun while we're doing it.
And absolutely having fun while you're doing that. I know he's all about that for sure. Again, if it's you, that's somebody who is just starting out, you've got a family, this is the time. He wants to talk to you. He's looking for people that are serious about making a plan and sticking to it,
yep,
and having fun. Again, that number to call him direct, it's 480-256-2384. The website is, again, blue.wealthmanagement.com.